Hi and welcome back everybody. Today I've got a Stihl 039 chainsaw. Issue with this saw is that one of these studs here comes out when you go to remove the bar nut. So in today's video I will show you a step-by-step repair on how to fix this properly. Okay, so I will attempt to remove the clutch cover. Now this one here, the nut does come off. It is tight though, and it's this one here apparently that the whole stud wants to come out with it. And it is. And this is what happens. The bar is stuck on the clutch cover. The good thing though is that the hole down in the chainsaw does not appear to be stripped. So a good old pair of vice grips will work good to remove this. I will clamp right on this part of the stud here. Now I'm just going to hold the vice grips, go on this side, and the vice grips did come off. There we go. Now what we don't want is to put the stud back in and have this happen again. Now here's a close-up look. What I think's happened is at some point somebody kind of cross-threaded the nut because it goes in extremely tight and crooked. Look at that. And I'll try another nut here and see if that makes any difference. No difference at all. So it's definitely the threads on the studs that aren't good. Now I've decided I'm going to run a die over the threads here. Then I can save the stud. And if you bought this tool here that I reviewed a few months ago, it will come in very handy today. Just grab one of the bar nuts that is good and find out the thread pitch and size that you actually need for your die. And the Stihl nuts are M8 by 1.25. So what I've done here is put an M8 by 1.25 die, and I will run it over the threads of the stud. All right, so I'm going to put a bit of oil on the stud here. Now basically all I'm doing here is fixing the threads. If it was too badly damaged, I would just get a new stud and put it on. And you want to make sure that you're going in nice and straight. This one's a bit stubborn. It's actually hard to get going straight on this one. Now, since it's so hard to get started with the die here, I'm just going to put one of these on my drill and just round it off here. That should make it easier for the die to grab a hold. So that made the edges a bit more round, and hopefully the die will grab on there better. There we go. Now if you don't have the tool I just used, you can do this on your bench grinder. And this is the old nut. It still doesn't want to go on properly. And I've got another used nut here, and see how this one goes. That one's good. Perfect actually. And I will not be using the old nut here. I'm going to get rid of it. Okay, so I'm just going to put it back on using the one nut. Usually when the stud's longer, I put two nuts and then tighten up the one at the far back and use that one to screw in the stud. There's not enough room, so I'm just using one here to get it in there, and then I'll use the impact just to pop it off after. And she's in there tight. I'm so glad the plastic threads were not stripped. Okay, let's try the impact and see if that's going to work. It's actually not working. It's bringing the whole stud out again. So I'll retighten it up by hand here. And I'm going to put a thin pair of vice grips right here. I'll just turn it back in a bit. I don't like using vice grips on the studs, but sometimes you have no choice. Just don't use your vice grips on the threads. So there are the studs back in properly. Hopefully the threads on this one are okay. They're actually a bit stiff as well. So that one's good. So I'll put a bit of oil again on the threads of this one. I've got my die M8 by 1.25, it's metric. And now I'm just going to put a socket on it. That's what I like about these hex dies. And again, make sure you're going in nice and straight. And I would rather do this while it's on the saw than off the saw. Now, the less you remove and reinstall these studs into these plastic cases, the better it is for the threads in the case of the saw. And let's try a nut on the stud now. Nice and smooth. Okay, so I've cleaned it all up. I've got the chain sharpened. I'll just put the bar back on to make sure everything will be okay. Now, if you're wondering about your tension, this is a good tension right here. Not too tight, and I always hold the bar up when I tension it until I've tightened up the two bar nuts. And when you tighten up the bar nuts on a saw like this with a plastic case, just don't over tighten them because you could easily strip the threads in the plastic case where the studs are screwed in. You don't want that to happen because it's a little bit more tricky to fix properly. So that was an easy fix, guys. You can also just go buy a new bar stud instead of fixing the threads like I did. You can also run a tap through the nut as well if it doesn't go on properly. It's all up to you. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hopefully the video has helped you. If it has, please like it and share it with your friends, and make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Have a good day.